Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Sphere of Being. This is the podcast that's all about caring for those that care for others, because at the end of the day, it can take a lot out of us when we have that caring mindset, or we have employees, team members, perhaps we're looking after a child with superpowers, maybe one of our loved ones needs our assistance. So we always need to make sure that we put our oxygen masks on first so that we can be the best that we can be for caring for others. And today I have the most amazing guest. He's all the way from South Africa because I'm based in the UK, and it's David Hawes. Now, David Hawes is a leader with the biggest heart. He can't stop caring. He's just wonderful. I've known him for a little while now. It's been my privilege to talk with David on many occasions. And I think he'd be a great exponent for what we're trying to achieve today. He's a serial career person, and he's done many, many things. He's got lots of experience, and he's stepped into his zone of genius by creating a wonderful podcast himself and a wonderful coaching and mentoring program called Millionaire Mindset. And it's all about helping people overcome limiting beliefs and step into their power and really achieve, not just from monetary terms, but being a millionaire in life in general, which is just wonderful. So, David, welcome. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you, Deborah.
No, my pleasure.
I like what you actually talk about it, caring for other people. And sometimes people don't think about that they're actually caring for other people. But when you are a husband or a wife, a father, a mother, and you're looking after, you also might be looking after your parents, your siblings. And it might not be I like the way you put it, because it's not always sometimes that conscious space where you move into and say, this person I'm looking after, but just by being there, being a friend. I heard a beautiful conversation from Simon Sinek. I don't know if you know Simon Sinek.
Yes.
Very good man. And he was talking, he said he's got a very good friend that went through a very tough time. And he was really annoyed that she didn't reach out to him. And I love this. She said, but I did reach out to you. He said, but I looked at my messages. She said, yes, look at it. Can you talk? He said, no, that's not telling me that you're not in a good space. And this is also about communication and how we communicate with the people around us. And he said something very powerful, which I always remember. He said, literally, when we're in a tough space, we need 8 minutes. And I don't think he used this expression, but we literally need 8 minutes to talk us off the ledge. 8 minutes. So he said he's now got a process with his friend where when they need help, both of them, either way, they literally send a message and say, do you have 8 minutes? And I love that. Yeah, because, it's also us people that are looking after people. And that biggest challenge sometimes in our life is to literally put your hand out and say, I'm struggling, help me. And particularly for us males, it's a very difficult conversation sometimes to admit and say, I don't have all the answers. Look, I'm one of the ones to say that firstly. There's a lot that I do know, but there's also a lot that I don't know, and it's that skill to actually say, I don't know that. And I'm blessed in that space where I don't mind what color, what creed, what age, what gender a person is. I say, when you've got a skill that I don't have, teach me. Show me. Teach me. I've had a very good, I'm blessed in that I have an ability to ask people questions. I remember many years ago sitting in the steam room in Cape Town, and there was a guy there who was a coach, not a coach, he was a trainer. He trained horses. Now, what I know about horses is actually quite dangerous. So, there's a number of us in the steam room, and while you're in the steam room, there's not much to do. So I started asking him questions. And you can actually see the rest of the guys were actually listening. And by the time we left there, we were pretty, I wouldn't say we were pretty educated, but we had a little bit better understanding of the horse sort of industry. And it's that caring thing of literally saying, it's not about me. And I love the way Arnold Schwarzenegger puts it, because he's the bodybuilder and the actor and all of that. And he said, when I was a young man, it was all about me, 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 me. He said that conversation has now changed to a we. It's that, what can we do together? How can we improve whatever the situation is? How can we make your life better and my life better? And I love that. And that's why what you're saying with your caring for people is beautiful, because and unfortunately, maybe unfortunately or fortunately, the woman, the ladies in our lives are very much in sometimes this martyr syndrome. I mean, I know one lady who needs help. Her health is not in a good space. The challenge is her children are at that space at school where they need all the assistance, and she's doing this. It's just give, give, give. And I like the way you put it. I use that expression as well. Put your oxygen mask on first, because you cannot help other people when you're in the process of dying. And that's also that, Deborah, it's that, I call it emotional maturity, where you actually understand and saying, looking after me is not being selfish. It's not being narcissistic. It's actually being clever, because when I'm in a good space, I can help you. And I remember saying to my ex-wife, there's no ways that you can make me happy as your husband when you're not happy. So you need to be happy in your space and in your head, physically and mentally, and and that sort of leads to what I do, and I'm blessed in that space. My podcast, and thank you, Deborah, you've helped me step into that space and get my voice. My podcast is Cultivate Your Millionaire Mindset. Now, what comes to mind when people hear that? Firstly, what is the word that jumps out at them? Is the millionaire.
Millionaire, yeah.
It's the money side. And they think, yes, money, I want money. And interestingly enough, in my students, you've got your circle of life. And in your circle of life, it's actually broken into 8 spokes. So if you literally just break it up like that, there's 8 spokes. And only two of them have got to do with money. And then I get particularly the business people, I'm a high-speed business person, and I want to do this. And I'm saying, I dealt with a corporate, and it was quite interesting. I facilitated my course to some corporate people, and the boss man said, it's too soft. It's too sort of airy-fairy. And I said, well, look, this is what it's about. It's about your mindset and your health. Now, remember, very much in the corporate space, what they're looking at the bottom line. And they're saying, we want to improve the bottom line. And I'm saying, you need to take a step back. Because when you're only improving the bottom line, what about the people around you? What about the mindset and the health of the people around you? And the guy that I was actually working with told a really sad story. His brother-in-law, I can't remember what skill he was and what corporate it was, but it's one of the big corporates here in South Africa. This man was very skilled. So they said, we don't want to lose him because he's that good. So they doubled his salary. Now that most people say, and look, he was earning serious money. They doubled his salary. A lot of people say, whoa, that's pretty cool. Here's the problem. By doubling his salary, they tripled the stress load on him. He died at the age of 47 years old of a massive heart attack because of the stress.
Mm.
And I said to my friend, wouldn't your sister rather have him around and less money? They said, of course, because he also had young kids. I mean, his kids, I think, teenagers. And there's the challenge in this space where you're just looking at the millionaire and it's the money and that's all I'm doing. And there's no shortage of stories of people who are supposedly successful, by society standards. They got the big house, the car, the holiday home, the boat, and they're unhappy. Really, really unhappy. I remember listening to, because I spend a lot of time on YouTube, not YouTube, Zoom, like this, talking to people, and not only talking to people, but listening to people. And I remember the one guy, he was I forget his name. He's a young black from your country, UK gentleman, very successful. And he said when he was 25 years old, he wanted to have a girlfriend, a six-pack, and £1 million in the
Oh,
bank.
was that Stephen Bartlett?
Yes,
Yes,
that's him.
Diary of a
That's him.
CEO. Yeah.
Yes, I remember him. And I saw, and he's now 31 or whatever. Thank you, Deborah, because I couldn't remember his name. Incredible gentleman. And he literally said he met his mentor, the guy that he was aiming to go to. And this sort of leads into this whole money story. I know it's maybe a long story, but it leads into the money story. And he said he met somebody who was literally who he was, his sort of where he wanted to go. He had the house, he had the garage with all the supercars, he had the yacht, he had all of this stuff. And he said this guy invited him around to his house for a weekend. I don't know if you heard the story. I don't know if you might even have been on that.
When you talk about it, I might remember, but right now,
you might remember
I can't.
And
I
he
can't
said
think
this
of it.
guy invited him around for the weekend, and they had a great time together. And that evening, the guy said to him, "Can you just come share the bed with me?" And he said this was not a physical thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a physical thing. He said this guy had all the physical trappings, but he was lonely as hell. He was an unhappy, lonely soul. And this, what was his name? Stephen Bartlett.
Stephen Bartlett, yeah.
From that point of view, he actually changed his process, and he started removing all of these material goods from his life. Because what is life about? And this is what I tell my students. Life is about two things. Only two things. And I'm laughing because, the men, the younger men says, "Oh yeah, baby, it's only about drugs, sex, and rock and roll." It's not. Life is not about that. It's about Fe. And for anybody who understands chemistry, Fe is the symbol for iron. And I call Fe focus and emotions. Think about this. Where your focus goes, your emotions flow. Where your emotions flow, your feelings flow. And your feelings are who you are. Think about that. Sometimes people need to process that. Because what do? You do just about everything and anything in your life. Why? Because of the feeling it produces in your head. Think about that. We get up in the morning and we do something because of that feeling that we want to feel in our body. And what do people quite often say to you? How are you feeling? It's a very powerful statement, because think about it. And think about that as well. When you are smiling, when you've got a happy smile on your face, you're feeling good. When you are depressed, you don't have a smile on your face. And your body language shows that as well. And your focus moves into that space. So, as my student, your circle of life, eight spokes in your wheel, 2 of them about money. And that's why I like that, cultivate your millionaire mindset. And when you actually understand it, it's about your mindset, your head, and your heart. And then I ask all my students, particularly before they actually step into that space with me, I say to them, which one is more important to you? Your mindset or your health? And I always pause there. And I always say, by the way, that's a loaded question. And then they go, oh, okay, I've got to be careful how I answer this question. So which one is more important to me, my mindset or my health? And then you can check the cogs turning and they're thinking. And then they give an answer. And the correct answer is both. Both.
Yeah.
And it also gets down to, I love that, that expression. there's two sides to a coin. No, there's not. And people are going to say, what do you mean, David? There are two sides to a coin. There's not two sides to a coin. There's three. Because you've always got that rim. You've always got that rim. And that process, I love the way one of my friends put it down. In fact, it was Maya on our podcast thing. I had a chat to her, and she said when she goes to a restaurant and she orders dessert, she says she doesn't often do dessert, but when she orders dessert, she says, I normally have the apple crumble or the apple pie. And then the waiter normally comes along and says, what do you want it with? Do you want it with cream? Do you want it with custard? Or do you want it with ice cream? And her answer is yes, please.
I'll have all of them.
Which by the way actually confuses the waitress, because normally they're looking for one of those three answers. And think about that story where you literally say, I'm not choosing, I want all. Life is not binary.
Yeah,
think
it's
about
very
that, Debra.
interesting.
Life is not binary. We've got all of this BS. It's hot or it's cold, it's dark or it's light, it's up or it's down. It's not. Our life and our emotions and our feelings are a blend of all of this thing. When do you ever get look, it's only in the computer industry where it's binary, it's 1 or 0. And then we get to the quantum computers. I don't know if you know that. The quantum computers are literally saying it can be a 1 and a 0 at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which, by the way, with most people messes with a lot of people's heads. How can you have black and white at the same time? Well, can.
You need both to have the other. That's the thing with our life. We live in a dualistic, polarized environment. And we have to have that because we're on Earth. And the wonderful thing is when we know that we are part of the whole. So if we think about that coin that you mentioned, and if we put a bicycle pump in that rim and we started to pump it up, it would get plumper. So Correct. When we're thinking about this, it then starts to form a shape more like a ball. It will have more of a form to it. So actually, the polarity starts to become less when you fill things out more. But it never stopped being that. It's just our perception of what that is: good, bad, light, dark, sweet, sour, hot, cold.
Exactly.
But it's all part of the same thing, because there are degrees of hotness and there are degrees of coldness. And so we have that. And that's why I built the business on a sphere, on a globe, on a round basis. Because if you put it up and you took all the air out, it would look like your coin, but there would be a little rim. But the air in the middle allows us to expand and say, we need to celebrate both. How awful it might be, we need to make sure that we have everything, because otherwise we just couldn't exist, and we're in denial in a way. Bit philosophical, but it's very much. And what you say about this, when you think about then things like judgment coming in, what would you say to people who are there with their belief systems that they have at the moment around a certain mindset? What would you say about looking at that in judgment and how to overcome those perceptions that perhaps aren't serving your mentees well?
To answer that in a sort of roundabout way, maybe I'm good at answering in a roundabout way. I like what you say about the circle, because when you look at a circle, there's no beginning and no end, and it's continuous. And I think what you're answering and to sort of come to that question with a mindset is the challenge that a lot of people deal with is we live in this world of it's there or it's there. It's not. It's a blend of everything. And that's why I think a lot of people struggle where they say, I'm blessed in that I've never been in a space of saying, I'm defined by the career that I run. Why? Because I've actually changed careers. The career I'm doing at the moment, Cultivate Your Millionaire Mindset, is my 11th career. Not job, career. And there's the challenge where a lot of people, and that's where I said I was blessed as a young man to literally look at the space and say, I'm not fitting in here. I'm not there. I'm a blend of it and it's not working for me. So to answer that said, I don't judge anybody, because what I say to my students is, I'm the doorway, right? I'm the doorway. Now, this doorway you need to approach. You need to walk up to the doorway. You need to stretch your hand out. You need to take the knob. You need to turn it. You need to open the door and you need to walk through the doorway. That's where I will be waiting for you. And the reason I don't judge anybody with their beliefs is why? It's your journey and it's your destination. And part of what we do is sometimes people get this. I mean, one of my students now, it's the new him. We've just finished 12 weeks together. And he's literally stepping into this new persona of himself. And I like what you say about your beliefs, because a lot of people don't realize this till they actually start doing head work. And I say to my students as well, it's not homework. Why? Because most of us have got a very lousy association with homework at school. I loved school. Well, when I say I loved school, looking back on it, it was a pretty cool time in my life. When I was there, I didn't think it was so cool. But I call it head work. And when you do the head work, you actually realize that, do you know that our belief system, Deborah, what we believe now as adults, was formulated by the time we were 7. Think of that. I mean, the story that jumps to my mind was Albert Einstein, where his teacher said to him, you're a dopey, you're an idiot, you'll never become anywhere, because I can't remember what he couldn't do. So it is, that, what do they call it? Early childhood development. From 0 to 7 is where your head is programmed. Now, the nice thing about that, when you know it, you can go in and say, hang on a minute, this belief of mine is not serving me. I've always been a fat person. Rubbish. You were given, God gave you an Olympian body. You just kind of, how do we say, got it a little bit wrong. But our machine, when you actually look at how brilliantly our body is designed and processed and done, from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet, we are all given that Olympian body. It's our lifestyle. It's the drugs, the sex, the rock and roll that gets in the way, that the body is not performing as an Olympian. Same thing with our mind.
So, David, can I ask you the question? When you're doing your work,
yes,
a lot of people get, and I can absolutely understand why, they get fearful because they think it's going to be a massive change. What's your opinion on gradual, incremental stage of changing, so that over time this becomes much greater than what we'd imagine?
That's an excellent question, because realistically, we've got 3 brains: our crocodile brain, our emotional brain, and our thinking brain. And our crocodile brain is designed for us not to change. The only person that wants change on the planet, the only human being that wants change on the planet, is an infant with a soiled diaper. The rest of us, actually, this brain is designed not to let us change. So a lot of that is the student, when they come to me and say, why are you talking to me? When you're in a good space and everything is working, you wouldn't want to do anything. You wouldn't want to change. You're in that ultimate space. Who's there? Not anybody on the planet. So yes, you understand that you want to change. How quickly you want to change and how fast you want this progress to happen, and this is why I love it, is entirely up to you, because it's your head work. Some people, that story of how do you boil a frog? You turn the volume up, or you turn the heat up slowly. Because when you get boiling water and you get a frog and you try and put him in, he's going to jump out. So yes, you need that process of the person. And quite often you've got to start removing the BS. And the BS is not what you think. It's not bovine excrement. It's your belief system. You've got to start getting your belief system and start saying, this is not working for me. I've always been overweight. I've always been heavy, or I'm always late. Those are belief systems you put in your head. You're not a tree. You can change that. So to answer that question of change is, Debra, it really depends on the individual. How ready are they to embrace this? Because remember, this is their life. This is their life. I give them the tools, but they go out and actually do it and implement it in their life. And the results I'm seeing with my students, I've got one guy after 52 years has removed this huge big boulder from his back that he's been carrying for 52 years. And I said to him, use that expression, how are you feeling? He said, I'm feeling surprisingly strange, which is not surprising, because he was carrying this mental burden around with him for 52 years, and now he's let it go. And it's like, wow. And when you do that, Debra, you do think one thing like that in a space, and you say, hang on a minute, I can do this in the rest of my life. You can take all 8 spokes, and that's what we do. We work through all 8 spokes in your wheel. And literally, the objective is to get balance. And I love that. People always talk about balance and meditation and all of that. And it's quite often an academic statement for most people, balance. Because most people's lives, when you do that wheel, we actually do the wheel and you write out where you are. Most people's wheels are so unbalanced when they look at them, and when I say to them, how comfortable would your car be if we took those wheels and put them on your car? And I go, holy smoke, I don't want to be in that vehicle, because it would be a really rocky ride. And that's why, that you say that changing thing in that belief system, my objective here is, and I keep saying to my students, it's not about me. It's not about David. It's about you and where you're going. And I say to my students, I don't know the path and the destination. And they look at me like I'm nuts. And then I say to them, the reason I don't know it is because it is yours. It's not mine. It's your journey. It's your path. It's your destination. And then they go, bing. Because quite often that belief system, and a lot of people, when I say a lot of people, let me rephrase it. Some people are on a journey that they've been put on by well-meaning, loving people in their life, and they don't fit. They don't fit. That's why I'm blessed. I keep saying I'm blessed because I was able to change careers in my life to do that I didn't say, look, I started out my career where my dad wanted me to go because that's where he was. And I looked at this thing and said, no, I don't see myself doing it for the next 30 or 40 years. It was, working in a chemical laboratory, which was, how do I put this politically correct? Mind-numbingly boring.
But you know what, David, and interestingly enough, not right for you, but one man's poison is another man's food. And ultimately, this is the great thing with humanity and the different types of people that we are. And we're blessed to have all different types of people, that actually what you didn't like could be manna from heaven to somebody else. And this is actually then again, this whole thing about the sphere, and that it might not be right for us. Sure. And as long as it is within a value system that doesn't hurt people, that isn't going to do damage, then everything in that is possible. And that's a very exciting and amazing journey to be on. And David, I just know that people who've had the inspirational pleasure of being in touch with you and talking to you get some invaluable wisdom from your many years of experience. And that's the whole thing as well, is if you've had a variety of different things that we've experienced in life, including the whole thing about the work scenario, and if you do what you love, you never do a day's work in your life, which is my philosophy. And sometimes we're not able to do that because life doesn't deal us those cards, and we do have to do something that we're not completely enamored of to get money in, because that's important. but other
Yes.
parts of our life can be incredibly fulfilling. David, as we wrap up this wonderful conversation, thank you. I'd love to know from you, what does caring for others mean to you?
That's a very good question, because I'll get back to your first statement. Caring for others, the best way I can care for others is to be the best version of myself. And this is not being selfish. I look at money as energy. I mean, I've got a number of people in my team that are philanthropists. And I say, for you to be a philanthropist, now, philanthropist is the way I term philanthropist is giving without expecting something in return. So the best way to help that people around you is for you to be in a space in every aspect of that wheel of life of yours, that when people are in your presence, it's that kind of, they say, I want to be around you because you calm me down. You give me that energy. You give me that solitude. You give me that, whatever it is, words of wisdom, or we go for a walk, or you hold my hand, or we go for a cup of coffee. So to help other people, sometimes, and that's sometimes the society thing, I've got to go and be doing all of this out there. No, 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 no. You cannot help, it's that kind of thing, is we're all in the water and we're all in the process of drowning. I can't help anybody else from drowning when I'm also drowning. One of my careers, I was a scuba diving instructor. And very interestingly enough, when you are drowning, you will stand on somebody else's head to get your head out the water without consciously thinking about it, without being malicious. So it's that kind of thing of saying, please look after yourself. It is not being selfish. Because that analogy in the water, when you are not drowning, when you are sitting on a surfboard and you can put your hand out and say, I can now help you. Whereas when we're both in the water and the water's up to this level, we are both clawing on each other to try and get our head above the water.
Yeah.
So, looking after other people it's self-care. And again, I say, it's not being narcissistic. It's not being selfish. It's being smart.
David,
I can only
thank you. We could talk forever, and I know that we'll have you back because it's been inspiring. What I'd love to do as well, because I'm sure people are chomping at the bit, which is an English phrase, to get hold of you. How can they get hold of you and be in touch?
Okay, two of them is, hopefully you're going to put my link to
All
my
in the show
Facebook,
notes. Yeah.
my Facebook and my LinkedIn and my website. Just be aware that today is it's the 7th of September 2024. This website will be done in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So my website is very, very easy. It's David, which is my first name, yes, which is very positive.com. So it's davidyes.com.
davidyes.com. Perfect. And everything will be in the show notes as well, so we can get hold of you. No problem at all. Thank you so much, David. And to everybody listening, what I always say towards the end of these sessions and episodes is, you're not alone. I love you. You're supported. You are worthy. You are valued. You are seen and you are heard. And if at any time you feel that life is getting too much, you're very welcome to be in touch with me. My details are behind me. Confidential, no judgment. You can talk. It's absolutely fine. There are other groups as well that you can go, or friends that you trust, because we're all in this together. It's all part of the same thing. And reaching out for help is sometimes, as David said at the beginning, one of the most incredible things that we can do to give value to others to help us. That's an amazing gift to give. So thank you so much, everybody. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.